I never thought the happiest day of my life would also become the most devastating. There I was, Elena Thompson, standing in the softly lit bridal suite of the Grand Meridian Hotel, staring at my reflection in the tall mirror framed with white roses. The ivory wedding gown flowed around me like a whisper of every dream I had dared to hold on to after years of quietly piecing myself back together. My dark wavy hair was swept into an elegant updo, a few soft strands framing my face. The makeup artist had done wonders hiding the faint shadows under my eyes. Shadows I had carried for 15 long years. Tomorrow I was supposed to marry Daniel Harrington. Kind, steady, successful Daniel, the man who looked at me like I was the only woman in any room. He made me feel seen, wanted, safe. After everything I had survived, I finally believed I deserved this. But as I smoothed the delicate lace over my hips, a strange unease settled in my chest. Something my mother had said earlier kept echoing in my mind. Some chapters are better left closed, sweetheart, for everyone's sake. I smiled at my reflection anyway, whispering softly, "You've come so far, Alina. No one can take this from you now." I had no idea how wrong I was. The rehearsal dinner that evening was supposed to be magical. Candlelight flickered across elegant tables covered in crisp white linens and soft blush florals. Laughter floated through the private banquet hall as our two families mingled. Daniel's hand rested gently on the small of my back, warm and reassuring. His mother complimented how radiant I looked. His father clapped Daniel on the shoulder, calling me the best thing that had ever happened to their son. My own parents sat at the head table, smiling their perfect, practiced smiles. My father, Richard, raised his glass for yet another toast to new beginnings and fresh starts. My mother, Margaret, watched me with that familiar protective gaze, the one that had guided every major decision in my life. Or so I thought. I leaned into Daniel and whispered, "I can't believe this is really happening." He kissed my forehead and said, "I'm the luckiest man alive, Alina." Then the heavy wooden doors at the far end of the banquet hall creaked open. A girl stepped inside. She was 15, maybe 16, tall and slender, with the same dark wavy hair that fell past her shoulders, the same hesitant way of holding her head slightly tilted when she was nervous. Her green eyes, my green eyes, scanned the room until they locked onto mine. She wore a simple black dress and clutched a manila envelope to her chest like a shield. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Daniel's hand slipped from my back. My mother's wineglass shattered against the marble floor with a sound that echoed like breaking glass inside my soul. My father's face drained of all color. The girl took one step forward, her voice small but steady in the deadly silence. "My name is Sophia. I've been looking for my biological mother for 2 years. I think that's you." She looked straight at me, tears already glistening in her eyes. "Are you Elina?" In that single moment, every carefully constructed wall I had built around my past came crashing down. The lie my parents had told, not just to the world, but to the man I loved, was about to be exposed in the most public, painful way imaginable. My legs felt weak. The beautiful rehearsal dinner, the flowers, the candles, the future I thought I had finally secured, it all began to dissolve right in front of me. This is my story, the real one, the painful, messy, heartbreaking truth that my parents tried so desperately to bury, and how the daughter I gave up 15 years ago became the one who finally set me free. Hook continues with extended emotional buildup. I remember the exact day my life first fractured. I was 16 years old, sitting on the edge of my bed in our quiet suburban home, hands shaking as I held a positive pregnancy test. Marcus, my first love, had promised me the world. We were young and foolish and so sure we were invincible. When I told him, he panicked. His family moved away 2 weeks later, and I never heard from him again. When I told my parents, they didn't yell. They went cold, strategic. "We'll fix this," my mother said, stroking my hair while I sobbed. "No one ever needs to know. You're too young, Elena. This would ruin your entire future." They sent me away to my aunt's house in upstate New York for the duration of the pregnancy. I lived in isolation, feeling my body change, feeling my baby grow. I talked to her every night. I named her Sophia. I dreamed of keeping her, of building a tiny life together. I promised her I would be strong enough. The night I gave birth was the hardest night of my life. They placed her on my chest for only a few precious hours. I counted her tiny fingers, memorized her face, whispered every apology and every promise of love into her soft, newborn skin. Then they took her. The adoption was already arranged, closed, final. When I returned home, my parents told everyone I had been accepted into a prestigious academic enrichment program. They erased her existence. They erased that part of me. And for 15 years, I let them. I carried the silence like a second skin. I went to college, built a career in marketing, smiled through family dinners, and buried the ache so deep I almost convinced myself it was gone. Until Daniel. He entered my life like a gentle storm, patient, understanding. He never pushed when I got quiet on certain dates. He never questioned why I sometimes cried during baby commercials. He simply loved me. When he proposed 6 months ago on a rainy evening in our favorite bookstore, I said yes, with tears streaming down my face. But the night after our engagement party, my parents sat me down. "Honey," my father said gravely, "Daniel is a good man, but some truths are too heavy. If he knows about the baby, it might plant seeds of doubt. Men say they can handle the past, but they rarely can." My mother squeezed my hand. "We've protected you all these years. Let us protect your future too. Don't say anything. Some chapters stay closed." Listened. I stayed silent. I trusted them. What I didn't know was that they had already gone behind my back. 2 weeks before the wedding, my parents invited Daniel to lunch at their country club. Without me. They told him a carefully crafted, devastating version of my past. They said I had been wild and rebellious as a teenager, that I got involved with the wrong crowd, older men, risky behavior, that I became pregnant at 16 and chose to give the baby up for adoption because I wasn't ready to be tied down and wanted to continue my carefree life. They painted me as selfish, unstable, someone who abandoned her own flesh and blood for convenience. They framed it as love, telling him so he could enter the marriage with eyes wide open. They begged him not to mention it to me, saying I was emotionally fragile and it would destroy me if the topic was reopened. Daniel carried that poison in silence. He loved me, so he tried to push it down. But it changed small things. The way he sometimes looked at me when I talked about wanting a family someday. The slight hesitation before he introduced me to certain friends. I noticed but told myself I was imagining it. Then Sophia walked into the rehearsal dinner. The chaos that followed was something I will never forget. My mother tried to intercept her. "This is a private family event. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Sophia stood her ground, voice trembling but determined. "I have proof, hospital records, DNA test results from the adoption agency. I'm not here to ruin anything. I needed to see her. I've wondered my whole life what she looked like, why she gave me up. I walked toward her on shaky legs. When I reached her, the world narrowed to just the two of us. I touched her cheek with trembling fingers. She looked so much like the baby I held all those years ago. The same eyes, the same chin. Tears fell freely down my face. "Sophia," I whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Daniel stood frozen, his face a mask of shock and confusion. My father's voice boomed across the room, trying to regain control. "Elena, think about what you're doing. This is not the time or place." Later that night, after the guests had been awkwardly ushered out, Daniel pulled me into a side room. His voice was strained. "Your parents told me you abandoned her, that you chose to give her up because you wanted freedom. They said you had a troubled past with men and that I needed to know before marrying you." I felt my heart physically crack. "You believed them." My voice came out as a broken whisper. "Without even asking me." He looked ashamed. "They made it sound like they were protecting you. They said bringing it up would reopen old wounds." I didn't know how to ask. "I love you, Elena. I was trying to trust that the woman I know now is the real you." The betrayal cut deeper than any knife, not just from Daniel's doubt, but from my own parents, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. They had rewritten my trauma into something shameful to maintain control. They had poised my future to protect their image. Spent that night alone in the bridal suite, still in my rehearsal dress, curled on the floor, sobbing until my throat was raw. Sophia had left her phone number. She didn't want to destroy my wedding. She said in the note she just wanted answers. My parents came to my room at 2 a.m., trying to spin the story again. "She's confused, Elena. This could ruin everything you've built. We only ever wanted the best for you." For the first time in my life, I screamed at them. "You took my daughter from me. You made me believe I was selfish for wanting to keep her. And then you lied to the man I love about the hardest thing I've ever been through." The pain was suffocating. I questioned everything: my worth, my ability, my right to happiness. But in the depths of that heartbreak, something shifted. A quiet strength began to awaken. Sophia's courage to walk into that room reminded me that I too had once been brave. I had survived, and I was done being silenced. The next morning, instead of walking down the aisle, I made the hardest and most liberating decision of my life. I wrote a long, honest letter. It took me hours. In it, I told my full truth: the love I had for Marcus, the terror of being 16 and pregnant, the desperate wish to keep my baby, my parents' pressure and arrangements, the years of silence and shame, and how their lie to Daniel had nearly destroyed everything. I included scanned copies of old hospital documents and a recent photo Sophia had given me. I had copies printed and asked the hotel staff to distribute them to every guest who had attended the rehearsal dinner. Then I confronted my parents one final time. "I forgive you," I said, my voice steady despite the tears. "Not because what you did was forgivable, but because I refuse to let your fear and control define me anymore. You don't get to write my story. Not anymore." I uninvited them from my life. Daniel read the letter in the hotel hallway, tears streaming down his face. When he finished, he dropped to his knees and apologized over and over. "I should have come to you. I should have trusted the woman I fell in love with. I see you, Elena, all of you. and I love every part. We postponed a big wedding. 2 months later, we had a small, intimate ceremony in a garden overlooking the lake. Sophia walked me part of the way down the aisle. She calls me Elena, and we are slowly, carefully building a relationship. It's not perfect. There are hard conversations and tears and awkward silences, but there is also healing. There is love. My parents have tried reaching out, long emails about how they only wanted to protect me. I haven't responded. Some doors must stay closed so others can finally open. Moral reflection and emotional closure if you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you most. Want you to hear this. Your past does not make you unworthy of love. Your scars do not disqualify you from happiness. The greatest revenge against those who tried to silence you is to live your truth loudly and love fiercely anyway. Sophia didn't come to destroy me. She came to free me. And in facing the lie, I finally found my voice. I am no longer the silenced girl. I am the woman who survived, who spoke, who reclaimed her story. Thank you for sitting with me through this long, emotional journey. If my story touched something in your heart, remember, the truth always finds its way home. It can set you free in ways you never imagined.